Hey, what's up, everybody? So, why is strength and weight training so important as we get older, more than other forms of exercise? Today, we're going to get the answer to that. I'm Risa Morimoto, your host. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and you're watching Modern Aging, where we chat about innovative and holistic ways to elevate our health and well being as we age. If you haven't subscribed to the channel thus far, I'd love for you to do so by clicking on that little red button below and that little bell next to it to be sure to be notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. I'd also invite you to check out our website at thisismodernaging.com. So my guest today is fitness trainer Tina Tang. Tina focuses on women over 40 because that's when our bodies really start to change, and it's where strength training can really help slow down the signs of aging, and it's great for our physical and mental well-being. Tina actually created a couple of short exercise videos for the channel. You can check them out up here. She's also created a freebie for us. It's a free beginner strength workout at home cheat sheet that you can download. I'll put the link in the description section below. Basically, it's some poses and exercises that you can do at home to start strengthening your core or your upper body and your lower body. I actually started doing strength training a few months ago during the pandemic, and I can say now that I really feel the difference. I not only feel stronger, but I feel like I have more energy and my mind is clearer and I sleep better. So check it out. Hey Tina, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing good.
I'm so glad to see you again. I know you've done a few videos for Modern Aging, basically kind of getting through this pandemic and doing kind of exercise snacks and stuff. But today we're going to talk specifically about strength training. So before we get into that topic, I wanted to get a little bit about your story actually and how you got into being a fitness trainer.
So unlike a lot of trainers who, if you know the average age of most fitness coaches are probably in their 20s, I got into strength training and in fitness in my early 40s. And it had started because I was going through a very difficult divorce, and I wasn't a gym rat before that. I maybe would go to the gym to go on the elliptical, whatever. But during that time, to kind of escape the loneliness of being in my apartment, I would go to the gym every day and take a class. And the classes were the strength classes. And that was my first time ever trying anything like that. And I really liked the way it made me feel. And because it was new, I was constantly asking my instructors questions like, well, what's this? Or how do I do that? And I decided to take a personal training and intensive course. And it wasn't because I thought I was going to be changing careers. I'm a jewelry designer. It was really because I wanted to learn properly how to do things, why exercises are paired together, and what's the significance of certain exercises. And that's how I got my, formal education in strength training. After that course, I started working at Equinox as a trainer, where I learned even more about strength training.
Wow. So what was the initial feeling that you got that made you feel like this is something that's good for me? I'm assuming that it was mental and physical.
It is. And that's why I'm such a proponent of women over 40 strength training. I know a lot of people take yoga and bar, and that does feel good. And it's not easy. I absolutely think a bar class can be very hard, but strength training, I think it's that as you continue with it, you literally see there's literal numbers showing your progress. So if before you started and you can only pick up a 5-pound dumbbell, and then you're at it and you realize, then you start moving on to a 10-pound dumbbell, and then maybe a 12-pound dumbbell. It's your body showing its progress. And why it feels empowering and important is that you realize there's a lot of things you can do for yourself that you don't need to ask someone else to do. And while I know some people are like, oh, it's nice having someone help you do stuff, but sometimes nobody's around. I'd like to be able to put my suitcase, in the overhead bin without asking for help. It is nice being offered help, but it is really nice being able to do it yourself. Carry your groceries, carry your heavy handbag without, having your arm hurt. I think the most, rewarding is when someone can see it happen in their everyday life, picking up your grandkids, right? Even if your grandkids are getting bigger, you can pick them up without hurting your back. Or even one of my clients had mentioned, because she gardens a lot, she was able to pick up a 40-pound bag of topsoil, no problem, not hurting her back, just, effortlessly because of strength training.
That's so awesome. So would you say, so strength training and weight training are the same thing, or are they different?
Same thing. And I think it sometimes sounds scary to women, because when they envision strength training or weight training, you think about people like Arnold Schwarzenegger or The Rock, picking up weights. Yes, they're the extreme version of strength training, like that, someone who's made a career of it, or they compete, is going to go that way. But strength training in general is doing exercises that are weight bearing, progressively heavier, and because the only way for you to get stronger or for your muscles to be challenged is to go heavier. You can't, if you stay with the same weight your entire life, it's like with anything, there's no progress.
Right. So that's actually one of the big myths, right? That if you start strength training, you're just going to bulk up and, you're just going to have muscles like this.
Actually, that's so funny. So let me give you some facts about strength training, or in terms of bulking up. People like The Rock, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was competing, they eat a lot. So if you Google it, The Rock's average calorie intake during a day is 10,000 calories. So he's eating,
what?
I think, between 5 and 7 meals a day. Yeah. So the reason why they eat that much is that's what is supporting their muscles, the mass. You can't not eat and get big like that. So that's number one. And then number two, you can only, let me think how to phrase it. Testosterone is so crucial in muscle growth, and it's because it helps, it produces a certain human growth hormone, and also it helps in muscle recovery. That's why bodybuilders and people who are trying to get big, usually men, take steroids. Steroids is a man-made version of testosterone. So testosterone, or steroids, is what helps them get bigger faster, because their muscles recover faster and you can keep working. So that's how The Rock, okay, he might not say he does steroids, but most trainers that are male will say, yes, he's definitely doing some sort of steroid. I know that might be controversial, but Arnold definitely, back in the day, he was doing it. And in all bodybuilding competitions, if you ask anyone who competes, steroids is common. It's not spoken about. Only in the natural bodybuilding competitions where they test is there no steroids. But back to women bulking up. So that's how those men bulk up, and they have more testosterone than women do. The statistic is our bodies, female bodies, produce 5% of what an average male body produces in terms of testosterone. So the only way you could actually bulk up as a woman is if you're taking steroids, which is man-made testosterone, and you're eating a lot more. So you will not bulk up by picking up weights. If anything, if you see a lot of CrossFit athletes, women who are following a certain diet, they lean out. So people lean out when they're lifting weights because you're creating muscle, and muscle is important because it's a metabolic tissue. So it's using your body's calories, whereas fat doesn't, is not burning calories, but muscles burn calories. So it's not like a huge amount, but the thing is you're creating strength, and you are leaning out by creating the muscle and having your muscles work for your body.
So how much strength training do you think that we really need to do after the age of 40 to, sustain longevity and independence as women?
I actually do think it depends on the person, because if you're an older woman who's starting to see osteoporosis or has like the onset of osteoporosis or osteopenia, the doctors, I think, usually recommend at least twice a week. If you want to create strength and muscle, at least 3 to 4 times a week. So it depends on your goal, but I think you should at minimum be doing it twice a week. But if you're going for more strength goals, and I don't mean like bodybuilding goals, just to get stronger, 3 to 4 times is ideal.
And 3 to 4 times for an hour or hour and a
You
half
don't
type
have
of
to.
thing, or?
No, you don't have. Oh, that's the other thing about bulking up. So I don't know if people like Arnold and The Rock. The Rock, his workouts are 2 to 3 hours a day. So everyone has to remember that too when they're talking about, like, he's eating 10,000 calories and his job is to work out and look like that, right? So that's what it takes for him to look like that and having some kind of, steroid. And for even CrossFit athletes, the females, they're also working out a couple hours a day, probably 5 days a week. If you research on that, you will see that. So in order to get that kind of ripped, it takes a lot of hours in the gym. But I think for the average person, strength training, if you're doing 30 to 40 minutes a day, you're good. 30 to 40 minutes when you work out. So at least, I said ideally 3 to 4 times a week, minimum 2.
So what do you recommend for people who are just starting out? Because I feel like can be intimidating and exhausting for people who don't have that into their routine,
It is. It can be scary and a little bit intimidating because you don't know what to do. And that's why we created the Get Strong Over 40 7-day challenge, where you're only doing 10 to 15 minutes a day because it's digestible, it's doable, and that's all you need to start it out. There's no reason to have to go all the way to 30 to 40 minutes when you're starting something new like that. I can give you an example of like why starting small is very helpful. So one of my clients that I'm working with is and she's a mom who's been struggling with time between working from home and taking care of her daughter to get her ready for Zoom. And the only time she has is in the morning, and she's a night owl. So she's like, okay, I'll start getting up an hour earlier to do your workout. I said, no, let's make it 30 minutes, get like 20 minutes of workout. You're just going to wake up 30 minutes earlier because it's about establishing the habit. And so in the first week, it was really hard for her to wake up, but she woke up at the 30-minute mark, 30 minutes early she normally does, and got something in. And that's all that matters. So I think it's the same with our challenge, 10 to 15 minutes, but doing it for those 7 days will create a habit. It'll create confidence, like, oh, this is not so bad, I can do it. And that's why, I'm really excited that we get to do this together.
I'm super excited about it because this is how I started, right? So I've only been doing this. I'm a newbie. When I first started interviewing you and I first met you, and after 7 days, you really do start to feel the difference. And I think that there's something to be said about having the consistency. That's really key. And then just being able to do the exercises without feeling completely depleted and exhausted. And, and I feel like you're right. I mean, it was, you told me, go small, right? Start off small. Don't try to go big. And I think a lot of people try to go big in the beginning because they're excited or whatever. And that's kind of self-defeating in a lot of ways. And that's why New Year's resolutions are so hard to keep up, right?
Yeah, because people think they have to go all in, that if you don't go all in, it's just going to be failure. But no, I think tiptoeing in is the way that it lasts.
Yeah, I think so too. And honestly, I mean, with everything that's been going on with the pandemic and US politics and whatnot, I think that we all need some consistency. And I think that that's another reason why this challenge is actually well timed. We're at the beginning of the year, right? I think it's you time.
Yeah.
And I think that was important for the both of us,
yeah,
right?
I think during the pandemic and just all the political news, it just feels like there's a lot that's out of our control, and it can be hard to sleep. It can be hard to find motivation. But as soon as you just do some small things for yourself, because you can't really help anyone else if you're not at least taking care of yourself. But these little things of self-care, and I know it's such a general word, but self-care includes making sure that your body's not falling apart, just taking care of your own energy, your strength. That is really important right now, just for making sure, we survive this time.
Yeah, no, not only physically, but mentally too, right? And I think it's really helped me. I mean, it's become part of my morning routine that I was only doing it twice a week, and then I went to 3 times a week, and now I pretty much just do it every day. Even if it's only for 10 minutes, sometimes I'll do 10 minutes, sometimes I do 30 minutes, sometimes I'll do 40 minutes. But I do something because it just helps me kind of get into that mode or,
Yep.
and I think the other big thing that you taught me was the fact that you also don't have to do it in the whole 40-minute chunk if you don't want to.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a very good point because I think that can be intimidating for a beginner. So yes, when it comes to fitness or strength training, there's a misconception that you have to do it all in one block. And you have to remember a lot of stuff, the way we think, has to do with marketing. So classes and stuff from gyms and, marketing from gym is always going to sell it like that, but it's because it's favorable to them. So a trainer will sell like these, 40-hour blocks because that's how they work, right? And a gym's going to sell an hour class because it's easier to set up. It's not necessarily because it's better. It's just the way it works out schedule-wise. But in terms of your physical fitness, you can take a 45-minute workout and break it up throughout the day. For your body, you're still doing 45 minutes of exercise. And the only time where you want to do anything in one block is when you have a specific goal, like, oh, I'm trying to build up like a cardio endurance. Then, of course, that makes sense. Like you can only build up endurance by doing it for a certain amount of time. So if you're trying to have better endurance, you might do 45-minute run versus like sprints. But for the benefit of your health and just exercising and kind of keeping your body and joints moving and lubricated, you can spread that out throughout the day.
Yeah, no, that was critical for me because so then I keep I keep these hand weights on my desk during the day. And so every once in a while, if I've noticed that I've been sitting too long, I'll get up and I'll just do whatever,
You're doing little snacks.
I know.
Snacks.
Exactly, your exercise snacks, which also is another video that you did, which I will put up here somewhere. But yeah, so I think that, in terms of I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions around exercise and strength training and that sort of thing. I think that this really is important also for women going through menopause because our bodies are changing so much. And I know that you've talked a lot about that as well.
So,
what is it about strength training that's so good for us, during menopause?
So there's a number of reasons. So as we go through menopause or perimenopause to menopause, all the changes we're feeling is because our hormones are dropping. So estrogen and progesterone, right? And I think what's fascinating is we only think of that in terms of pregnancy and having periods, but what surprised me about menopause, it affects so many things. Those two hormones have a role in so many things in our body, including your metabolism and weight control. And then this is something new, because I noticed I was starting to thin, or my hair was starting to thin, or I was finding a lot of like loose hair. It's more than usual.
Me too.
Well, that is related to estrogen dropping. So there's estrogen receptors in our hair follicles, and that affects growth. And that's why and I don't know why it's specifically up here, but I can tell you my hairdresser who's cut so many hair, she said, yes, women thin up here. It's just part of as we get older. But anyways, back to the fitness. So the dropping hormones are also part of why more women get osteoporosis than men do. So that the hormones affect the porousness or density of our bones. Whether you're a male or female, getting older, we're losing muscle mass. So why it's important for women who are perimenopause, menopause, or even post to strength train is we're trying to create strength and muscles to support just weakening joints and I guess less dense bones. So when you strength train, you can think the body's so smart. So if you're doing things that are challenging it or creating an impact on the bones just get denser because the body is, I guess it's programmed to survive, right? It's going to do whatever it takes to counter the challenges that are coming to it. So if you don't do strength or weight-bearing exercises, and then we're already in a position where the bones are starting to get weaker, there's no other way except for strength training. And I know a lot of people do Pilates or bar, but I don't think you'll find a single doctor that'll tell you to do that. to help your weak bones. They're gonna always recommend strength training. And you'll find that any older woman who strength trains or embraces strength training feels more in control of her body. If you can think about it, there's all this stuff going on that we don't have control over because our hormones, we can't tell our hormones what to do, but you can control how you feel in your body and being stronger. And even though being stronger doesn't seem like it would have a mental influence, it does. You feel like, oh, I can pick that up. And it builds confidence knowing that I can pick this heavier weight up. I can pick up my grandkids without having back pain. I can pick up the topsoil, or oh my gosh, I can do this and that. It really feels good, like you did something for yourself, and it's the one thing you can control.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I do also think that it's really super important if people are going to strength train to do it, to learn how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Because you can throw out your back and you can hurt yourself if you don't learn how to do it properly.
That's totally right. So while some of the exercises or exercises in general, people think, oh, it should be very self-explanatory because, I can move my body. But even in yoga, people can throw out like their pelvic bone, proper form in anything is super important, and having a coach show, or at least, having studied how to move, which it doesn't mean like you have to go take a personal training course, but I think it's helpful to have a coach explain, how to move, where you should feel it most, how to move your joints. That makes me think about there's a particular move that is not intuitive. That's an important exercise, a deadlift. It doesn't even mean you have to do it with a barbell, but none of us think to move that way naturally. But it's something that focuses on your hamstrings and your glutes. So strengthening the back part of your body, which we normally don't work, in everyday life, we're always like doing stuff in front of us. But yeah, that's a perfect example. When people do it incorrectly, they end up hurting the lower back.
So I think that's another reason why. So the 7-day challenge is free, which
Yay!
is awesome. And I think it should be free. And I think it's a great way to introduce people to certain exercises, right? I think, so tell me a little bit more about it. So you've created, I think it's 3 exercises, right?
Each day there'll be 3 exercises to do, and you'll just follow a video, like watching how I do it. We'll do it together. And 3 seems very manageable because it's just 3. You're just going to repeat that a few circuits. I call it a circuit. So if you've got 3 exercises, you do a certain amount of reps, and then you just kind of cycle through 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. And yes, I think at the end of the 7 days of doing that, you will feel much better in your body.
And then people can join also the Facebook group. So if they have any questions.
Yeah, we're going to have, I'm so excited about that. So it's not unlike other kind of challenges where you're left on your own. We have a private Facebook group where anyone who is in the challenge can pop in there to ask a question. We'll be in there posting encouraging notes and just making sure everybody's, accountable and consistent, because the goal of this challenge is to just get started and to stick with it for 7 days.
Wow. And so they just go to getstrongover40.com in order to sign up. Tina, thank you so much. This was really great. I'm so excited to be partnering with you. I think we're going to really help a lot of people, including ourselves, because I'm definitely going to do the challenge. So, but yes, everybody can join me, and we'll do this together for 7 days. It starts on February 1st. So you can go to getstrongover40.com now to sign up.